10 years ago, I was a young millennial in my early 20s who was absolutely fed up with the dog shit economy and job market. After dealing with another one of these stupid ass online job applications where they ask you everything from who you voted for to the color of your toothbrush, I had enough and just casually muttered, you know what, at this point, I'd rather die than work a 9 to 5. Everybody from my boomer parents to even my millennial peers laughed at me and ridiculed me for making what was at the time a very controversial statement. So you can imagine my shock when 10 years later, I was scrolling through YouTube and I saw a young Zoomer post a viral hit with over 300,000 views titled, I'd rather die than work a 9 to 5. Literally word for word, exactly what I said a decade ago. And I was extremely proud to see that not only was he not getting ridiculed and shamed the way I was, his comment section was actually filled with people supporting him and echoing the same sentiment. And it's not just him. A countless slew of videos from young Zoomers echoing the exact same sentiment have popped up and gained insane amounts of views, traction, and engagement. The insane cultural shift in just 10 short years kind of highlights why I think Gen Z is awesome and led me ponder the question of this video. Did Gen Z just make unemployment cool? I want to start off by making one thing very clear. This video is not meant to knock those working a 9 to 5. In fact, I actually don't know any unemployed people like myself who look down on people working 9 to 5s. It certainly happens a lot the other way around, though. At least this was certainly the case before Gen Z came of age. 2017, Eastern Europe. I got so fed up with everyone looking down on me for not having a job in America that I just booked a one-way ticket overseas with only $2,000 in my bank account, hoping to find a way to make it work somehow. I stumbled upon an opportunity to volunteer at a youth summer camp in Eastern Europe, and because it offered free food and accommodation, I had to take it. I was very apprehensive going in because of all the shit I went through back home, and I was afraid that these teenagers at the camp were going to look at me as just some unemployed loser. Of course, I didn't know how awesome Gen Z was back then, and to my surprise, the exact opposite happened. These kids were about to graduate high school and were feeling very depressed and uneasy about working a traditional 9 to 5 themselves, especially in this dogshit economy. And they all thought it was the coolest thing ever that I ditched the traditional route and just traveled the world doing my own thing. They even asked me for advice on how they could do the same. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could be proud of myself and my life choices. And in case you're wondering, yes, this is what started the inspiration for this channel as a way to give back to Gen Z. And little did I know at the time that this first experience I had with Gen Z wasn't just a one-time anecdote. It was part of a greater seismic shift in the mentality of our culture. Part 2, it's the economy, stupid. There is one small silver lining to how dogshit the economy has been for our whole lives. And that is that it's opened the door for all these anti-work sentiments to absolutely explode. Let's be honest here. If the economy was good and jobs paid decent wages like back in the 90s, there's no way the cultural mentality around work would shift so dramatically so fast. Part of the reason Gen Z made unemployment cool is because cool is a relative term itself. Is being unemployed cooler than being a YouTube superstar with millions of subscribers? No, though I'd like to point out that every big-name YouTuber is technically unemployed, as they're not working for anyone else. But is it cooler than having a job in this modern economy? Well, let's discuss it. There's 3 main common criticisms I've seen as responses to my videos. Number 1, the jobless freedom is fun until you run out of money. Number 2, you should work so you won't be a burden to your parents. And finally, number 3, no one wants to work, but you have to in order to pay your bills. The thing is, I don't necessarily disagree with these statements. But what I'm saying is that in this dogshit economy, having a job isn't going to solve any of these problems either. If anything, it'll make them worse. This is because people always overlook the fact that having a job itself isn't free. In fact, it's very expensive. For example, if you just stay at home living with your parents and playing video games, your total burden to your parents adds up to be about what? Maybe $300 per month for food and $50 for a new game? A one-time $700 purchase of a PS5 or gaming computer? Meanwhile, if you go out and try to get a job, your parents are going to have to help you pay for a car to get to work and back, which will set you back at least $20,000 for the car itself and $500 per month for gas, insurance, and maintenance. What if you want to actually get a decent middle-class job, which requires either a degree or certification? Well, then your burden to your parents is going to be absolutely astronomical. You'll have to go $50,000 in debt just to get a degree that doesn't even guarantee a job anymore. And let's face it, no young person who's desperately searching for a job is going to be able to afford a car or a college tuition by himself before he even starts working. You're going to have to ask your parents for help, and you'll be a far bigger burden to them this way than you would be if you just stayed home playing video games. I'm sorry, but these are just basic facts and numbers. A $50,000 student loan debt completely dwarfs a $700 one-time purchase of a PS5 and a few games. That's just a fact. And the same thing applies to the two other criticisms as well. The jobless freedom is fun until you run out of money. Again, I don't disagree with that, but how is getting a job in this economy going to help? Every employer demands that you have your own car before they'll even consider hiring you. This means that you have to somehow get a car before you even have an income. Do people just think cars are free these days? Having to drop tens of thousands of dollars on a new or even a used car means you're going to run out of money way faster by having a job than by not having one. Oh, you have to work so you can pay your bills. You can't just live with your parents forever. Well, have you seen rent and food prices compared to wages lately? Modern jobs don't pay you nearly enough to cover your living expenses anymore. And this is on top of the costs of having a job itself. How are you going to pay for the expenses of having a job itself on top of having to pay for rent and food when your job won't even pay you enough for rent alone? I'll tell you this much. I've seen plenty of employed people who are stuck in six-figure student loan debts because that's how expensive it is to get a job now. I've never seen an unemployed person that deep in the negative. I have seen plenty of unemployed people with zero money in their bank account. But I'm sorry, zero is still more than negative $100,000. That's just how numbers work. Part 3. The 3 levels of unemployed coolness. So a common question I'm always asked when making these videos is, sure, you're right that the economy sucks, but what's the alternative? What's the solution? Well, in my opinion, there's 3 levels of unemployment. You should ideally aim for the top one if you can, but any one of these levels is better than working a 9-to-5 job in this economy. The highest level is successfully starting your own business, YouTube channel, or whatever big dreams and passions you have. Obviously, it's really hard to make it to this level, and not everyone gets there, which is why it's the top level. But I would say if you ever had these dreams, to not give up and keep trying. If you're unemployed and have all this free time on your hands, you might as well. This is kind of what happened to me as I tried and failed at YouTube for over 15 years before this channel finally got some momentum. And yes, you are technically unemployed when you go this route because you are not working for or being employed by anyone else. The second mid-level is where I would say I'm at. I'm not a big YouTuber or super successful entrepreneur. I managed to survive by just traveling the world and doing odd jobs here. I get by living in cheap countries overseas and embracing minimalism. And I'm doing my best to just check out of Western society and do my own thing. This is a level I think is achievable for everyone and is actually a pretty enjoyable, stress-free existence. And the final level is a level that everyone in society loves to shame and hate. But to be honest, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it at all. This is where you're just chilling at home playing video games and living in the moment. There would be something wrong with it if the economy was decent and good jobs were everywhere. But let's face it, that's just not the case. Because at this point, your choices are either work your ass off for 60 years and die a miserable early death, or you can at least however much time you have, before your parents run out of money, and hope one of your bigger dreams works out before then. Even if it doesn't, at least you'll have enjoyed life for a short amount of time, which is something most people who work their whole lives can't say. I would say if you're stuck at this level, try to aim for one of the higher two levels. Not because of society, though, but because it can help you find some personal fulfillment if you're feeling lost and without a purpose. But if you can't make it, don't feel bad either. I know what I'm saying is very politically incorrect, but I'm an honest person, and I can't lie to you here. I can't lie to you and tell you that getting a job is going to do anything for you, when all the numbers, statistics, and facts show that it won't. Now, if you're looking for some guidance on how to escape society and enjoy life without having to work a 9 to 5, I got great news for you. Just yesterday, we put out a tier list video that shows you 8 different ways you can survive and thrive without having to work. Check it out. I'll see you there.